Andrea, we'll start off. Who are you and what do you do? How you got in aviation?
I'm an IT consultant and a newly minted uh, aviation business owner. So guess what I'm doing? I'm leasing and renting planes because of you, right? Let's see. I got into aviation probably 2.5 years ago. My nephew is a pilot. He's a commercial pilot with the airlines. He's a captain with the airlines. And his lifelong dream was to have somebody in his family get involved in the aviation space and fly with him, right? And so nobody else in my family was going to do that. And so Fun Auntie, he convinced Fun Auntie to do it about 2.5 years ago, and I started that journey. And so I'm a business person by trade. I've had my own business I've been in business and IT for about 30 years. When I got into the aviation space and saw some business opportunities, that really sparked my interest, right? And I ended up hiring a private flight instructor to help me through my flight journey. He told me about the school that he works with that also had the leaseback programs, and it just snowballed from there. And so I actually had met with Alex, gotten some consultation from Alex because I was like, I really do want to get into this aviation stuff from a business perspective, and what can I do? And I found Alex out there on YouTube, and he and I met, and he told me about what he did, and then I told him what I was looking to do, and he told me about you because I
No,
was
I actually bought Alex's course, that Aircraft Worker Academy, because
like,
I
okay,
was
so
kind of
you,
like you. I was wanting to make money in aviation too, and you hear about you can't make money with being a pilot until you're a commercial pilot, and then all these other things. And I was like, well, there's got to be a way to do it without actually just flying the plane. There's got to be a
right,
way to get some kind of income generating in the business of aviation,
correct,
legally, you know.
correct.
And that's where I found Alex, and
Okay,
learning how to
okay,
broker the planes and so on from
okay,
there.
okay. So you were his student. So he told me about you, and I went to your website immediately, and I bought the program, and it was on from there. And so here we are today, business owner in the aviation space.
How far into your flight training where you're like, all right, I think I can make some money with this. I need to buy a plane, and this is my plan. This is what I'm gonna do with
It was about 2.5 years in.
it. So recently.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, very recently. Yeah. So originally, because I was at a flight school, so you know how you have kind of
Mm,
rotating instructors. So I had two instructors. One of the instructors was also a plane owner and was leasing back to the school. And then my main instructor told me about that whole program. And she was like, Andrew, I think you would be great at this because, you're already a business owner, you enjoy business, and it's a good way to kind of offset some of the costs, right? And so my thoughts were initially just, you get a plane, lease it back just to cover the cost of my training. This is an expensive
mm,
hobby, right? This is
right.
not a cheap hobby. So if you can find a way to monetize it, that's probably the smart thing to do. Like I said, I'm a business person by trade, so I enjoy business. So when she shared that opportunity with me, and the second pilot just kind of walked me through that process, because here's what's funny. He walked me through the process from a financial perspective using his cost estimating spreadsheet and just kind of explaining things at that level, right? And he said,
Right.
he said, you know what, Andrew? I looked all around and couldn't find any training on how to do plane leasing. And I jokingly
Mm,
said to him, you should write this down and create your own program because he was trying to, but we were piecing it together,
right.
from the perspective of someone who already owned a plane for over a year, had leased it back. So he was piecing it together and telling me how to do it without any real structure to it, right? Then when I found your program, I was like, oh, this is the structure that I needed as I got into your training. I was like, wait a minute. So this isn't going to just be a single plane business. When I took your class, I was like, hold on, I can scale this up to a bigger
Right.
thing here. It's not just going to be me buying a single plane, trying to offset my costs by leasing this plane out to the flight school. This is a real model here for having a leaseback business. And so I was like, "Whoa, wait a minute! I got more than I bargained for when I started getting into the training." And I was like, "Oh, this explains that whole industry."
And what was that plane that you ended up purchasing?
I got a Cessna 172 Hawk XP. So
Ooh, very nice.
yeah, so it's 195 horsepower. It's like 5 horsepower short of being what the FAR calls high performance, but it can be scaled up to 210 horsepower. So I can turn it into a high performance plane.
So you got a great plane to satisfy a bunch of different markets. So you got one of the best training aircraft out there. You can take that plane in any state in America, any flight school in America, and plug and play right there.
Absolutely. So yeah, so we can scale it up, we can scale it back, So and where we live here in the Washington D.C. area, any 150 horsepower, it's difficult here to get those planes up in the air during the summer months. Didn't expect to run into this baby, but it was like the perfect solution. When I showed the owner of the flight school this one, he was like, "Oh yeah, that'll definitely get up in the air in the summertime. We can rev that engine up, and it's just a turn of a screw to make it go to 210 horsepower." So
Right.
yeah,
Well, that is amazing. And your journey is very, very similar like mine. Like I was going to a flight school, getting my own training, and the plane that the flight school had was an old Cessna 150. It was always down for maintenance. They only had that one plane, and they have multiple students. They can only fly one person at a time. When the plane's on the ground, the weather's not great. What students flying? There's none. So
right,
I went there out of frustration. I'm like, I'm gonna be a student pilot forever, until I can finally
right,
get there. And
right,
once you get that plane and you satisfy that need for that flight school, and then they're able to make even more pilots. So you're able to make more people's dreams come true, and get
yeah,
them to their next level. And you'll quickly see, because when I got my first one, it was just 3 years from the first plane to owning three planes. And
wow,
it was just because of the demand. Like even today, and that's what made me decide to make this course, is I have operators. Once I made the website and started posting on social media, I have operators, flight schools reaching out to me all over the place. I leased a plane I'm here in Florida. I leased to a flight school in Arkansas. I have
oh
three
wow,
flight schools here in Florida that lease them. And I have people knocking on my door every single day saying, hey, we want more planes, because the flight school market is plagued with these older, out of date planes that aren't maintained. Well, they're maintained because they have to be maintained legally,
right,
right? But
right,
not to the highest quality standards. And most of these leasebacks are like what you were saying, the traditional owner that has them just to subsidize their costs. And that's a great goal to have, but it can definitely be scaled. And you don't just have to subsidize your costs and break even or barely make a profit. You can actually make
make
really
it,
good passive income doing
yeah,
this.
yeah,
And then you'll see the demand is there where you have to scale. It forced me to, and then that's what I'm going to do is get even more, and then, that's what you're going to do is get even more, and
that's it,
because
that's
you
it.
can't Google how to do this. You know what I mean? There's
We
very little
tried.
information out there.
We tried.
Yeah.
We tried, and I'm telling you, this flight instructor, his perspective was boots on the ground, technical, financial, mainly the financial
Mm-hmm.
stuff, and bits and pieces about you should know this and know this. But there was no such thing as wet lease, dry lease, damp
Mm-hmm.
lease. There was no business plan. There was no business strategy. There was no awareness that you could actually do something beyond just having your single plane leased back to a flight school with. He was like, "Yeah, Andrew, we can't just buy tons and tons of planes.
Mm-hmm.
We can't have all of our revenue tied up in purchasing planes. He's got his own fleet of planes, but to scale up the business, they like this model of leasing from other places because they can scale up quickly
Yeah, it's a win-win for
and
both
financial
parties.
cost. Yeah, because it costs a lot of money to run a flight school, and so get your vehicles from leasers. Right, I like working in that model because there's respect there, because we're both responsible for having this plane there. Because a lot of people are like, I don't want to put my plane in a flight school. They're going to tear it up and blah, 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 blah. Well, you kind of got to know up front. It's like leasing your car out to the NASCAR, right? Your car might get destroyed. Same thing with your plane. You got to know that, right? It could get destroyed or, have some bumps and bruises, but that's the name of the
Mm-hmm.
game. You can't fall in love with the plane like that. You got to be willing to let what happens. But there's a lot of responsibility there on both sides of the house. The contract that dictates who's going to pay for what if this happens really drives who's going to pay for what.
Right.
So
Yeah, it gives you a really good peace of mind.
right,
And that's also a great thing for maintenance. I'm glad you brought that up. When it comes to just safety and keeping that plane, not only airworthy, but,
yeah,
proficient, right? So
right,
whenever a flight school, say they did that, say they went in and they spent all of their upfront capital and they bought a fleet of, 4 or 5 planes all themselves, and then they're also taking care of all their own maintenance.
Maintenance,
Well,
yeah,
that piggy bank, empties out eventually. We have the pilot checklist, the pave checklist, and we get the external pressures. Flight schools have external pressures too.
yeah,
If they're so financially tied up, are they gonna maybe shy away a little, turn a blind eye to something they may overlook,
yeah,
as opposed to an airplane that was given to them? They didn't have to come up with all that money. They just have to maintain it.
right,
Who's going to maintain that plane more?
right.
Because it's up to them to keep that plane flying, and then they can make money.
The thing that I really liked about your training, like I said, is that if you want to do this from a true business perspective, I mean, you can take it as high or as low as you want. If all somebody wants to do is have a single plane, just to cover their expense, lease back one plane just to cover their expenses, it's still a good training because it gives you insight into that whole leaseback market, the terms, and what you should look for, and how before you sign the contract, all the things that you should be aware of, and should you get a lawyer involved, and all those kinds of things. But if you are like me and you like business and you want to scale it up, I was like, oh, this is fantastic. That business plan example that you gave, I was like, oh my God, this is, he's done all the work for us. I gotta, I have to change the plan around for my specific needs, but it laid a blueprint out so that we would know how to build a business plan, that you go, if you need funding, go to a bank or wherever and present them with your strategy or what you plan to do. That was, for me, that was the goal. I mean, like I said, I like the whole thing, because it gives you the technical information and the insight about this particular business model and this particular model. This gives the
Right.
whole picture, the financial realm, the terms, what airplane leasing is all about, why you should do it, where the need is in the industry, how to do it. You're even talking about leasing jets and all this kind of stuff. So I was like, man, you really can scale up. You can go from a little Cessna to something bigger, and then you pulled in all of the competitors, Honda Jet, Boeing, all the different other aviation companies that lease planes from different perspectives,
Mhm.
right? So, I mean, it's just a really good insight and overview over an actual business that somebody could run if they are passionate about business and they like aviation. It's kind of like you take it where you want to take it, but you gave a great foundation for being able to do that. And like I said, I love that. I wrote down all the different the things that really got me. That business plan was really it for me.
Yeah, that business plan took a lot of time, a lot of research to get
Yeah,
that
because
thing finally
I
made.
was like, wait a minute, this dude is going pretty deep in here with this information in here. So thank you for that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So are you, and I'm talking about this from like a because the main reason why I got into this whole thing is I'm a car dealer.
Okay.
I've been a car sales manager for the last almost 9 years now.
Okay.
So on commission basis, we get killed in taxes. Taxes gets us
Uh,
every single year. And I'm a big fan of Grant Cardone, and find out that he buys a jet and writes it off, and he avoided his IRS bill. And I was like, what's all this about? I can
yep.
mix aviation sales and
Yep.
write it all off taxes. Let's figure this out. And after I got the first one, it wrote it all off completely against my taxes, and it greatly saved me there. Are you kind of using that for your
Oh,
tax benefits as well too?
absolutely. 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 Yep. Yep. That's the other thing. You get the big tax write offs. And then, my CPA was telling me this because we were timing when I bought this plane, right? And so for
Mm-hmm.
2023, I think it had gone from 100%
To 80.
to 80, right?
Yeah.
Then the tax law changed. And so I ended up, because she was trying to get me to get it last year before the end of last year so we could get in a certain
Uh-huh.
tax bracket, right? A tax rate. And then I got a message from a tax strategist that said, ooh, they are changing the law. It's going back up to 100% this year, for this year.
Right.
Right. So I ended up not buying the plane until this year. So I will get that 100% depreciation. And isn't it double depreciate? Is it double
Yeah,
depreciate?
you can bonus depreciate it, and
Yeah,
then you can
bonus
depreciate it.
depreciation. Yeah. So, oh, definitely. And I needed it.
Yeah.
What I found out too from my bank, the banker was telling me, he said, Andrea, people come in here all the time and buy planes and set up businesses. We set up the business for them so they can get the tax write off.
And the thing is that information isn't out there. Like you think of all these way high net worth people, right? All these celebrities, even a lot of these people, they own jets, and when they're not using them, they put them in a charter part 135 and lease them back to them, so it
Right.
pays for the operating costs, and they're flying for free, and they write the entire thing off.
Hey, right. You write off the cost of the plane, the gas for the plane, your flights training, anything related to the aviation business gets written off. Your trip from your home to the flight school or wherever you're going to get the plane, you get those miles written off. We flew that plane cross country from Arizona here, right? The hotel, the gas, everything is getting written off because it was all a part of the business. And then everything you do with the plane, you can write off the depreciation that first year, but everything you do after that, the maintenance, the gas, all that stuff is it's just a constant write off for you. If this is your lane, if this is what you enjoy, I don't recommend anybody just go buy a plane for the tax write off unless you are high net worth and you can do that. Planes aren't $5.
Right.
So, not a good one anyway, But they're not that you can get some good ones. You can get some inexpensive ones depending on what you want to do with it. My flight instructor got his plane for $50,000, his Cessna, and it is at the flight at a 141 flight school. And
Mm-hmm.
he got it. I think he had it for maybe a year or half a year, and then it didn't come with any upgraded avionics or anything. It had no Garmin, no G5s or any of that stuff. He just bought the plane with its original six pack, and the school used it, and then he upgraded the avionics, and now he's got this upgraded superpower plane thing going on. And he paid $50,000 for it. As it started making its own money, then he
Mm-hmm.
added in the avionics and all the other things. So it made some money. He used that money to upgrade the plane. So you can get a plane for 50 grand depending on what kind you want, and then you just scale it up as you go.
Yes.
You know,
So not only did he buy that plane for 50 grand, he let it pay for itself, pay for its upgrades, and turn itself into a 75 or $100,000 plane.
that's it. And he's getting paid for it every day that it flies. Mid-year last year, and he was breaking six figures. You know, so and I saw his profit after that. So
Mm-hmm.
he had a pretty good profit. That was just in like May or June of last year. I don't know what it ended up being by the end of the year.
Right.
And of course it depends on where you are too, because like you're in Florida, so you guys pretty much can fly all year around because it's warm there all the time. We have
Mm-hmm.
all the seasons here, right? So in the wintertime, it slows down in flight schools here because the weather is not conducive to student pilots being out there flying. And your training where it talks about how you can lease multiple planes out to different places, and it's good to basically diversify your portfolio.
Mm-hmm.
You spread that risk across multiple schools. And I'm like, you know what? I need to get some planes and put them in Arizona and put them in Florida. The training gave me that perspective. It made me think of things from that perspective. Let me say that.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you don't have to be stuck in your own hometown. You can go out other places. Like you said, you had schools reaching out to when they found out about it. You had places reaching out to you from outside of Florida.
Right.
Yeah,
It spreads like wildfire, and I mean you'll have people reaching out to you very very soon,
yeah,
just because it's too easy. Like you're providing one of the best services you can get out there because you're getting a better plane out there to flight schools for better flight training. And
yeah.
like you said, flying is expensive. It's not a cheap hobby to do, or even a career path. That's something you want to do. Is
Right,
It's expensive to get there.
right.
Um, you want to do that on the one best equipment you possibly can if you're spending that much money for it. And
Absolutely.
if you can give them a quality product to do it with, then the
Yeah.
benefit for both parties, for everybody.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's amazing that you said you bought that plane 2 months ago,
It was just a month. I
a
think
month ago.
it's been a month. What is this? April? I bought that plane at the beginning of March.
So not even a month.
Not even a
I started
month.
making the course less than 3 months ago. You've already bought a plane, found an operator, got a lease, and you're leasing it back.
Yeah, yeah.
So this is a proven model. It can be done.
Oh yeah.
It's crazy. I love it. And you're going to have a lot more people reaching out to you. You're going to get a lot more planes. You're going to lease them out to a lot more places that help a lot more pilots. So AJ, let us know where we can find you, where your plane is, what flight school it's at.
You can find me on social media on Instagram at plowright_aviation. And the plane is at Aero Elite. So their website is aeflight.com.
There you go. There you go.
Awesome.
All
Thank
right.
you.
So, any pilots over there in the DC area, definitely go make sure you check out Andrea's plane. It's going to be a great one. She's going to have a lot more. AJ, it was great talking to you. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
All right, Zach, take care. Let me
Yes, ma'am. Thanks so much.